Thank you so much for your understanding. Just for the listeners to know, I was supposed to have this interview with Daniel a while back and had such a bad allergy day that I knew it wouldn't be fair to actually record when I was sneezing and sniffling and could barely keep my eyes open. Gotta love Iowa pollen count this year. But I'm really excited to have you on today. And I really just want to start by diving into your story and how you got involved in the fitness industry, because everyone's story is so personal and unique and different. And it's just really nice to hear all of the different paths that people can take to kind of get into this world. So I would love for you to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into doing what you're doing today.
So I'm from Israel. When I was 6, my family and I moved to China. I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and my brothers were more explorative in the sense of trying new foods. I was like, I hate Chinese food. And back in 2004, when I moved to China, there wasn't any Western restaurants. It was just McDonald's and hardcore Chinese food. And Chinese food in China is different than Chinese food in America. It's not Panda Express. It tastes completely different. So I was extremely picky eater between the age of 6 to 12. Nothing except chicken nuggets and hot chocolate entered my mouth. That's the only thing I consumed. Around the age of 12, I started playing basketball, and my brother convinced me that in order to get better, I would have to eat healthier, which was pretty much any diet except what I was eating. So I slowly started trying new foods. Started with really simple, with like banana, grilled cheese, like basic things. But I was so picky that even eating a grilled cheese was like a moment for me. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I expanded my taste buds. I got more into nutrition and fitness in general. And as a teenager, I played a lot of basketball, and I noticed that I was really confident on the basketball court, but that skill didn't translate into social life, into school, into day to day life, right? But when I started getting more into fitness, I noticed that I could take my body with me everywhere I went. So I'm like, hey, this is a way more translatable skill. I should put more emphasis on this. So I got way more into working out, nutrition, all of that. I went to University of British Columbia in Canada to be a physiotherapist. And after my second year, I thought to myself, I would much rather be in the prevention side of actually helping people avoid injuries and lose weight and be healthier rather than the cure of after they're injured, after it's already too late, then try to help them. So then I decided to be a personal trainer. I still graduated with a it's not a physio degree because you have to get a master's, but I got the bachelor of what people do to become a physiotherapist. So yeah, I worked in a few gyms, different locations. Then in 2020, I'm sure some of you have heard, but there was a lockdown thing going on. So that was no longer an option for me. And I had to figure out how I can get firstly myself in shape because I didn't have any equipment at home. However, that was after a decade of me being into fitness nutrition. And I realized that if you know what you're doing, you can get amazing results even just at home. So a metaphor I like to use is Gordon Ramsay can make a better meal with 1 pan than the average person can with 5 pans because he knows what he's doing. And I knew what I was doing, so I was able to get myself results even though I didn't have any equipment. So then I started getting to online fitness training, and I saw that everyone had the angle of I'll help you lose weight while eating the food you love in less time. But I want to take a different angle to make myself more unique. So my motto, my slogan is I help people lose weight without going to the gym.
I absolutely love
And that's what I
that.
do full time now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I mean, I relate to part of your story so much in that the pandemic is actually what, catapulted me into taking the chance on myself and starting my own business.
Yeah.
Because similar to you, I was working in a gym, but then suddenly we didn't have jobs anymore. Nobody was coming to the gyms.
Yeah.
They got shut down. And it's like, okay, well, now what? Like my whole livelihood relied on being in person with other people. And I also love the point that you said about like when you know what you're doing, you can get results no matter what. And I think the unfortunate truth is that a lot of people on the internet who claim to be coaches don't actually know what they're doing. And even if they have all of these lovely transformation photos or before and afters, and they're trying to sell you something that they swear works, it might not always work. So I want to get in a little bit about, like, you say, you help people lose weight without going to the gym. What does that look like just in general? Obviously, I don't expect you to give away all of your secrets, but I'm sure that the listeners are thinking to themselves, like, what is this guy even talking about? Like, that's not possible. So talk a little bit about that.
Right. So there's so many different angles I can go. In terms of that's not possible, it's important to understand that your muscles only know tension. They don't know the dumbbells that you're holding. They just know how much tension you're putting on your muscles. So, as an example, if you wanted to work out your chest, you can do a bench press. For that, you really need a bench, you need a barbell, and you need plates, right? But you can also do a push up, right? And depending on your weight, depending how many push ups you do, it's the same amount of tension on your pecs. But let's say that a push up is way too easy for you, you're super strong. No problem. You can do diamond push ups. You can do a push up with elevating your feet. Let's say a push up is way too advanced for you. Well, you can do knee push ups. You can do elevated push ups where you're doing like a wall push up or on a chair or a desk, right? Let's say that you don't want to do body weight, you don't have dumbbells. Well, you can do with bands, right? So there's so many different modifications that you can execute depending on your fitness level, what equipment you have. And my entire approach is I find that most of the people that need the most help getting in shape hate going to the gym. They're anxious, they're intimidated, and they don't go to the gym. So if the only way you associate losing weight is by going to the gym and you hate going to the gym, you're kind of stuck, right? So I would never say that my program is the best. It's the best for a select group of people, right? For people that hate going to the gym, they want to lose weight, and obviously they want to maintain it for a lifestyle. My approach is not an Instagram approach. I'm not going to get you a beach body in 3 months, but I will get you a sustainable lifestyle for the years to come.
I excuse me. I love that. And I think it's really important to note exactly what you just said. It's about sustainability. It's not about those quick 90-day challenges or something
Yeah.
like that, because those kind of things can be great to, jumpstart. If that's what it's going to take to get you to commit to a habit for 90 days, okay, great. But if you're expecting to have some crazy result other than just building the habit itself, it's not really possible to do that. And so I love that you're very upfront about that, because that's the other thing that people usually, like, my clients know that things take time and they've, figured that out. But a lot of the flack that functional providers get from people is like, oh, well, what you do isn't fast enough. And it's like, quick fixes don't work. Like, if you want the
Yeah.
sustainable results, and if you want to not just lose the weight and then gain it all back in another month when you decide to stop doing whatever ridiculous thing it was that you were doing, that you have to let it take time. But the other important thing that I love that you mentioned is there are so many different variations of ways that you can do workouts without having any equipment, because the pandemic did another thing, which was create a huge rush on all fitness equipment. I definitely was one of the people on Craigslist, like, searching through, being like, is anybody selling anything, because I miss my weights. But there are ways that you can mix up different body weight workouts. And so push-ups is a great example, but I would love to hear, like, a couple of variations on things like squats or hip hinges that you might have at home, because I can already hear people in the back of their minds being like, okay, yeah, my upper body's not that strong, so push-ups are going to be challenging, but I can only do so many body weight squats before I'm just bored out of my mind. So what's your strategy there?
Well, to make leg exercise more difficult, you can do lunges, you can do Bulgarian split squats, which is hell. It's super difficult. And you can do Bulgarian split squats where you pause at the bottom for 30 seconds, then pop back up. If you can do that, then I mean, you should go on stage, because that's close to impossible. Right? You can do wall sits, you can do elevated hip thrust. So you can obviously do glute bridges, but also you can put your feet on a chair and then elevate it. That makes it more difficult, right? You can also do walking glute bridge. So you do a glute bridge, and then only your heel touch the ground, you walk back and forth, right? Might be easier to demonstrate than to just try to explain it. But yes, for every muscle group, there's infinite ways to make it more difficult, to make it easier, regardless of what equipment you have. Now, I do tell my clients to, most of them at least, to get bands because they cost $10, and that expands your possibilities endlessly, right? Because dumbbells, you can have to buy a 20 pound, a 10 pound, 15, you have to buy so much. Bands, it's like, I think you said we won't show the video, but yeah, it's like very simple. It's like $10 and you can do so much with it.
Absolutely. And for those of you like looking for bands, they are much more readily available. I know as of recording this that it is a little bit easier to find weights nowadays, but the other amazing thing about equipment like bands is how easily you can like travel with it too.
Oh yeah.
So even if you're a person like I know a lot of people are working from home now and everybody's home all the time, but we are kind of getting back into a place where people are traveling more frequently and they might not be staying, especially like I know myself, I try and travel in like Airbnbs. I'm not traveling in a hotel necessarily. And so hotel gyms aren't really a thing for, I guess the younger population that likes to travel in Airbnbs. But bands are super portable. And so then you can bring it with you when you're going on your trips.
100%. And what I love saying is if you can't lose weight while on vacation, you need to change your approach, right? Because on vacation, you have more time. You're able to go on more hikes, walk extra more, and you're able to try new foods, right? And some people, when they go on vacation, they always associate with weight gain. But if you try new foods, then you can expand your taste buds and you will discover more healthy and tasty foods that you enjoy. And that's the purpose of diet, I believe, is to expand, not minimize it, right? So some of my clients are shocked when they lose weight while going on vacation. And they know that, hey, if they can lose weight then no matter what happens in life, they can still maintain the weight loss.
I love that. And I think another piece, because this is something that I've been thinking about and prepping about recently for future solo podcasts, is just kind of the immense stress relief of doing some kind of a trip and getting away from the stressors of your everyday life. And
Yeah.
that definitely plays a big role in just losing any kind of like extra inflammation or weight that your body might have been holding on to just because it was in that fight or flight from your really stressful job or family things or whatever it is that's going on. So that's definitely a piece of it too.
100%. Stress is so huge. I get my clients to track how much they sleep, if they meditate, if they journal, because just because your exercise and diet is on point doesn't mean there's not other factors that you can improve upon, right? Sometimes just getting extra sleep, or maybe the same amount of sleep, just higher quality of sleep, and focusing on your mental health will lower your cortisol, and that will accelerate your weight loss, right? So it's not exactly what you put in, what you put out every single time. There might be things that you don't even think about that play a big factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that specifically comes to mind that you tend to find that you point out to clients as being like that linchpin thing that they've been saying, "Oh, I've been trying and doing all of the right things, but it's still not working for me."
There could be 1,000 different things, so every person is different. But overall, I would say the biggest thing is mindset. As cliche as that sounds, but so often I catch my clients say things that I'm like, hey, never say that again, because the way you speak to yourself will obviously influence your beliefs, your attitudes, your actions. So, as an example, if somebody said, I went to a party, but I know that I can't eat the cake or I can't eat the alcohol. I'm like, hey, Paige, if I told you you can't press this button, you're not allowed to press this button, whatever you do, make sure you do not press this button. What do you want to do?
Definitely press the button.
You're gonna press the button. If somebody tells you, hey, don't do this, you can't do this, you're way more likely to do it. If you tell yourself, I can't drink alcohol, I can't eat donuts, how likely are you to binge? Very much. Right? So instead say, I don't drink alcohol. I don't eat donuts. It's not who I am. It's not part of me. And that doesn't take effort. It's just, I don't identify as a person who does that. Right? So simply changing your mindset, changing the way you view yourself. One of the first things I really try to ingrain in my client's head is you are an athlete. Don't know what to do? Hey, what would an athlete do? Well, if he's not sure, he'll probably hire a coach. Not sure what to eat? Well, what do you think an athlete would eat? Don't feel like working out? Well, what would an athlete do? Well, he'll probably do it anyways, right? So always having that mindset of what would the best version of me do, and identify yourself as an athlete, because the way that you view yourself influences all of your actions.
Absolutely. And I think that identifying as an athlete is a great one. I like to tell my clients, like, basically play the bit, like if you want to be this super healthy person, just pretend, like honestly
Yeah.
pretend until it actually starts manifesting. Like, what if you see yourself, a year down the line and you're like, oh, I get up and I meditate and then I have my breakfast and I go to the gym, and it's like, that's the life that you want. Try it, make it happen. You can do it now. Like, the only thing that's stopping you is that mindset piece, which I think is super, super powerful.
100%. Some people say, I'm not the type of person to do this. Well, yeah, what you have been doing has gotten you to where you are now. So something has to change. You need to change to change.
Yes, exactly. You need to change the change. That's a fantastic quote. I'm going to have to pull that out for this, because I think that one of the biggest problems, though, is that change is the scariest thing for a lot of people. And oftentimes it takes, a rock bottom moment that someone has in life to actually make a change, because then they'll get to a point where staying where they're at is, it's more uncomfortable than making the change would be. And I know that you said that when you went back and started getting into all of this fitness stuff, you, very similar to me, got into it for a preventative reason, to try and help people prevent future health issues. How do you find, like, communicating that specifically, I guess, not necessarily with your clients, because if they're already your clients, then they,
Yeah.
they understand your message, but just like creating content for social media or talking to maybe friends and family members that don't quite understand what it is that you do. How do you find, like, talking about the preventative piece?
Right. So on the content piece, at first you make content about what you think people want. And then once you talk to more people, you create content about what they actually want. So initially, I told myself, hey, I want to work with people in the 30s or 40s because I feel like I can make the biggest change over there. So I talked about living longer. I talked about preventing medication. I talked about being a role model for the kids. And two of the three was accurate. One of them is something that surprisingly very few people cared about. And in my experience, most 30s and 40s old don't think too much about how they'll feel when they're 80 and like living a few extra decades longer, even though I thought it was top priority. But everybody mentioned looking good at the beach, right? And I thought, hey, when I was a teenager, I cared about that. But I'm a mature adult. They're mature adults. They don't care about how they look at the beach. Everyone cares about how they look at the beach, right? So everybody cares about looking good in the clothes. And that's something I never even thought about, right? Because I've been doing this for so long. I didn't think about I can't buy this clothes, but that was a big deal to so many people. So I make more content about that. Uh, I mostly um, make content on Twitter because uh, that happens to work the best for me. I tried Instagram and Facebook, work decent. Twitter, for whatever reason, hits. I swear it's not just politics and people yelling at each other. Check it out. There's a good side to Twitter. If you want to check out my handles, at Daniel Ross _ fit. But anyways, a tweet that went, um, I'm not gonna say viral, but went pretty good was from one of the calls that I took, which I didn't even think about, and he said that he doesn't want to be the person that works for 40 years and then after 1 year of retirement dies, right? Because he has a friend who did that, got a high paying job at 25, worked for 40 years, became a millionaire, then 66 died from a heart attack. Right? He didn't want to be that guy. So I made a tweet. I'm like, hey, you don't want to be this person. So many people resonated with that, right? Because how many people prioritize everything over their health until it's too late? Because by the time that you're in your 60s and 70s, there's really only so much you can do, which is why I believe if you're 30 and 40 and overweight now, you can decide how the rest of your life will look like. So yeah.
That's a super powerful story, and it hits really close to home, because my father passed away in his mid 40s from a heart attack, just out of the blue. But similarly to what you were saying, he was under, a ton of stress. He was on statins. He had like cholesterol issues. There was all of these other underlying things that everyone just said, oh yeah, take your pill, you'll be fine. And it turns out he wasn't. And like, that is something that is real and does happen to people. And so working on your health from an earlier age, from a preventative standpoint, can be the difference between actually getting to live that full life that you're expecting to live, as life expectancy is obviously much higher than it used to be. We are teetering down a little bit because of all of the bad habits. But what I would really like to launch into, based on what you just said, is how to do this in a sustainable way. Because I think what holds a lot of people back is, like you said, the mindset piece of, oh, I'm just not a healthy person. Well, number one, you need to change that. But then also how to start implementing these things without just doing an entire overhaul of your life when change can seem so scary.
Definitely. So that's a great point, because one of the first things I do with my clients is I focus on what I call the easy wins, things that take little time and effort that move the needle in your favor. So an example of an easy win is, right now I'm standing. This is a standing desk. I knew I was going to talk with you anyways. Might as well move, might as well stand. Whenever I'm talking on the phone, I'm never sitting. I'm always walking and standing, moving around, because I'll be talking anyways, might as well move, right? I always have a water bottle within arm's reach at all times, because hey, look at you,
Say
love to see that.
cheers with my straw. That's what I always tell my clients. Get a water bottle with a straw. I swear to God, it just makes me drink more water because it's there. But continue.
That's a good point. Whatever you can do to make it so that it's easy to make healthy choices and difficult to make unhealthy choices. For me to eat ice cream, I'd have to get in my car, drive to the grocery store, order ice cream, talk to, not order, like get ice cream from the freezer, talk to the cashier, buy it, come back, unwrap it, eat it. That's exhausting, right? And if I really wanted ice cream, I would do it. But like, it does take barriers. If I want to drink water, I just literally have to reach out my hand, right? So if you're able to master the easy wins, make it easy for yourself to make healthy choices and difficult to make unhealthy choices, you kind of win by default. Another example of an easy win is to improve the quality of your sleep. Unfortunately, I can't snap my fingers and make it so that there's 25 or 26 hours in the day, allowing you to sleep for an extra hour or two. But what I can do is give you a few simple tips to improve the quality of your sleep. And the beauty of mastering the easy wins is, again, they take minimal time and effort. So it doesn't matter if you're on vacation, doesn't matter how hectic your life is. If you can continue to lose weight, no matter what happens in your life, then you know when things do get easier, then it's a cakewalk.
Absolutely. And I think that that's really important to note too with the sleep piece, is that so many things start just snapping into place when you get good quality sleep. Because most of the qualms that clients will come to me with in the first place are like, oh, I always feel dead. I'm never energetic. Like, I'm crashing throughout the day. And yes, sometimes it's like blood sugar related and we need to work on the food piece. But really a lot of the time I'm just like, you don't need an energy drink. You need to actually be sleeping and you're not. Like, humans need sleep, and it's vital for so many different processes in our body. And so do you have any like examples of quick sleep help tips that you really like to give people?
100%. If you look sleep tips, you'll probably find 17,000 different hacks and tricks. But I believe 95% can be boiled down into three broad categories. So one is, you want your room to be as dark as possible. So blackout curtains, you can take a towel and cover any electronic lights. And I like to wear an eye mask, right? And I believe that makes a huge difference. Now, for the longest time, I didn't know comfortable eye masks existed. So I just put a shirt over my head. That helped, worked for me. But I highly recommend you get an eye mask that is comfortable. I know a lot of them are like on your eyelids, or it's not, but there's a few eye masks that are super comfortable. So highly recommend that.
Yeah. And just to jump in there, for all of the women, they're going to be like, hey, I get my eyelashes done. I'm not going to wear an eye mask. They actually do make ones now that come out far enough that they don't touch your eyelashes. So just saying, like, it is an option for you too.
100%. Check out Hush. They should give me an affiliate link with the amount of times I recommend them. Unfortunately, I don't, but yeah, Hush, the eye masks are fantastic.
I'll
So
link that in
that's the
the show
first thing.
notes.
The I really need to get an affiliate link because I've been recommending everyone. But yeah, the second one is, you want a cool room temperature. So around 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 90 degrees Celsius. You can have a thin blanket and a thick blanket, so you can alternate. You can sleep naked. Once you do it once, you never go back. Super
True.
freeing. You can take a hot shower or hot bath before bed because that decreases your core temperature. Anything to make your body cool, that or like drinking tea, like hot tea, anything that to make your body cool will help you sleep better. And the last thing, which every single person struggles, is low stimulation before bed. So avoid social media, avoid heavy arguments, avoid big meals because that also like stimulates you, right? Before bed. Instead, you want to journal, you want to meditate, you want to unwind.
I love that. One of the tips that I usually like to tell my clients is like bed is for sleeping and sex. And it's like, if it's
Yeah.
not either of those two things, you shouldn't be doing it. So like, don't be watching Netflix on your phone for hours in bed. Like, if you want to do that, go downstairs and then have a little break time before bed, like split it up, but don't do it all in the same place.
Yep. Exactly.
Super powerful. Yeah, and I love all of those tips. Like it's absolutely amazing how much that it makes a difference, especially for anybody who's listening who's like, oh, but I do get 8 hours of sleep, but you're waking up a couple of times in the middle of the night and like remembering doing that. Maybe you get up and feel like you have to go to the bathroom, or you're just up tossing and turning. That doesn't count as 8 hours of full sleep. That's still going to be less than that somehow. And yes, there are trackers out there like Aura Ring, for example, that can kind of tell you, oh, how much are you actually sleeping? But for the most part, you're probably going to know, like if you're waking up feeling
Yeah.
groggy or if you're crashing throughout the day, but you're quote getting 8 hours of sleep, you might want to look into that a little bit more.
100%. One thing that I hate when people say, and I don't know why some people do it, but people wake up in the middle of the night, they check the time, be like, oh, uh, I woke up at 4:15 and then I couldn't go back to sleep. I'm like, hold up. Why do you know the time? Why do you
Yes.
check the time? Nothing good can happen from checking what time it is. Whether you have 30 minutes or 3 hours left to the time you're supposed to wake up, the best solution is to go back to sleep, right? Don't check your phone. I don't understand why people do that. I don't know why it's so common.
I am right in the same boat with you, because that's something that I've had to tell so many of my like type A clients. They'll wake up and be like, well, it was 4 a.m. and I knew that my alarm was going to be at 6. And so I was like, well, I'm only going to get 2 more hours of sleep. So I might as well just get up. And I'm like, what? No, like, why? Why would you
No,
do
why do
that
you
to
know what time it
yourself?
is?
Yeah. I'm like, just roll over. Like, if your alarm hasn't gone off, trust that it's going to go off when you need to be awake, and you don't need to be out of bed before that. That's just wacky. All right.
An interesting tangent about that
Yeah.
is places that don't have clocks allow you to be more mellow, like casinos, right? Time just passes. And places that have a bunch of clocks, like sports games, right, that allow you to be a lot more focused. So the more you look at time, at watches, the more focused you'll be, the more awake you'll be. Right? If you want to be more productive, you can just have a timer next to you, not even like a stopwatch. The timer doesn't have to like go down or go up. Just looking at the clock constantly will make you more energetic and productive. Right? You want to do the opposite of that when you're trying to sleep.
Absolutely. And that's a great tip. I didn't really think about that fact, but you're definitely right. Like, when you are around a lot of clocks, it's the microwave minute effect almost, where it's like, oh my God, this is the longest minute in history,
Yeah.
versus like if you don't know how long you're doing something, it doesn't feel as bad. Well, I like that. So branching on to, because we talked a little bit about the sleep piece and we've talked a little bit about the exercise piece, I want to talk a little bit about the food piece too, like how to
Yes.
sustainably eat well. And obviously we did touch on a little bit of it with like, not keeping ice cream at home if that's something that you tend to eat a lot of. So like putting those barriers into place. But what are some other tips when it comes to food, especially coming from somebody who is like a self-proclaimed used to be a
Oh
picky
yeah.
eater? I would love to hear about that, because one of the biggest things that I know that I deal with, especially with my friends and family, they know who they are. They don't really listen to the show, so I feel comfortable saying this, but they are very picky and then wonder why, like, they're going to the gym and they're doing the other things, but they're eating chicken nuggets and cheese every day, and that's the only foods that they're consuming. So I would love to hear a little bit about how you expanded your palate too, in addition to some sustainable, healthy eating tips.
100%. So I'm a firm believer that diet is about expanding, not about condensing, right? Not about diminishing, not about subtracting. So anybody who's listening, if you're at home, take out a piece of paper. If you're driving, just listen. But think about all the healthy foods, all the foods that you enjoy eating. Don't filter if it's healthy, convenient, expensive, healthy. Just write everything you enjoy eating. Or just think about everything you enjoy eating. List out everything. Now underline what's also healthy. Now, ideally, you have an expert like Paige who can tell you, hey, actually, this isn't that healthy, or actually, no, this is healthy. You can underline this as well. But for the most part, people have an 80% accuracy where they kind of know. Right now, obviously, there's a lot of myths that inaccurate, but for the most part, people know. Now, everything you underlined, that's 80% of your meal plan because that's both healthy and tasty. Stick to that. Right now, as I mentioned, I believe anybody can expand the taste buds, and you should eat more foods that you enjoy, not less. And the way you do that is 10% of your total calories will be new healthy foods because there's so many tasty healthy foods, but you know that they're tasty because you've never tried them. So once a month, go to the grocery store and buy a new vegetable or fish that you've never tried before, or try a new exquisite cuisine from some restaurant, right? There's so many healthy, tasty foods that you don't know it's tasty just because you haven't tried it. So try more things. Again, a decade ago, I ate nothing but chicken nuggets and hot chocolate, literally nothing else. Now I eat pretty close to everything, right? Just because I expand my taste buds. And what you can also do is foods that you don't hate but you don't love, foods that are healthy but they taste okay to you. So, as an example, a few years ago, I didn't love onions. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I thought it was okay. I would never order onions like in a sandwich, but if it was there, I would eat it.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, I recognized it was healthy. So every time I did order a sandwich, I did tell them, hey, add onions, just a little bit. Or every time I made soup or I ate chicken, I put onions as well. Right. Or had a salad. Every time I had a meal, I added a bit of onions, and slowly I got used to the taste of onions, and now I actually love the taste of onions. Now I actually want to eat onions. So it went from healthy and not tasty to healthy and tasty, and that's another way how you can expand your taste buds. So 80% healthy, tasty, 10% healthy but not so tasty, and eventually it will become healthy and tasty. And the last 10% is eat whatever you want.
Right. Yeah. And I love a few of the different things that you said in there. So number one, like trying new things at restaurants is actually something I recommend to clients all the time because the biggest pushback I get on trying new foods is I don't know how to cook that. And it's like, okay, well, have someone else prepare it for you, see if you like it, and then we can go from
Yeah.
there. Like if you're going to try it one time and pay for the dish one time, great. But if you're going to go out and buy like a head of cauliflower, and let's say you've never had cauliflower before, and then you bring it home and you're like, actually, I detest this. Now, what do I do with a giant head of cauliflower? Like, preparation matters. So that can be a great hack to try new things. And then I also love what you said about, repeating foods until you actually do like them. And the onion thing is super fascinating because one of my specialties is gut health, and onions are super prebiotic foods. They're going to feed all of the good gut bacteria for you. And so it's not surprising to me that as you continued to eat them, you probably had colonies of gut bugs go, hey, we really like this, and start to expand and do better things for your body. And so then you do start to crave those foods because they do make your body feel so good.
100%, definitely. And sometimes you're going to try things that are disgusting to you. So I know kombucha is healthy. For the life of me, if somebody pointed a gun and said, hey, you have to drink this, I'd be like, hey, that's not waste anybody's time. Just pull the trigger because I can't. I hate the taste so badly.
That's
Right? I
my
just hate
husband
it.
too. He's like, you're drinking vinegar. And I'm like, it's not though. And he's like, he immediately, like, he doesn't even sip it anymore. He's like, I refuse to even try it if
Same.
you offer
Nope.
it to me.
Yeah, I just can't handle the taste. Right? So there'll be some losses, but there's also be some wins. So the first time I tried Brussels sprouts, why have I been hiding this for myself? I really like it. First time, right? So some wins, some losses, but try new foods all the time.
I love that. And I also want to just put another like really big emphasis on the fact that preparation does matter. Like I love Brussels sprouts if they're roasted or like pan
Yeah, yeah.
seared or something. But I have had clients go, oh, well, I went out and got a bag of frozen Brussels sprouts and I microwaved it and I hated it. And I'm like, of course you did, because
That
you
sounds
just,
awful.
oh my God, like oh my God, I wouldn't eat that either. Like you have to do something to it. And so I think that's another big myth too, is that people just assume that diet food is just bland or bitter in that case, because you're not preparing the food correctly. And that's where going to a restaurant, trying something might be able to help you out there. Or, working with someone like you or me that knows how to cook these healthy foods in a health promoting way and in a yummy way to get you to actually want to continue eating that way.
100%. And yeah, I really love the fact of the first time you try something, have somebody else prepare it because you don't know what you're doing. That's a really good tip. I'll definitely take that and advise people on that.
Good. I'm glad. Well, this was an absolutely fabulous conversation, and we had so many good tips and tricks for people who are trying to start up a new healthy lifestyle. And so now I will definitely put all of your links in the show notes, like I said. But if people do want to reach out to you and talk with you more about, their own personal struggles of trying to create new habits for themselves or sustainable habits for themselves, where would be the best place to reach out?
So the best place would be Twitter. And again, I know I am not a social media person. I only created social media so I can help more people. And Twitter can be hectic, but there's also so many great people on it. So I highly recommend you check me out there at DanielRuz_fit. And also my website is danielrazfit.com. So that's DANIELRAZFIT.com. And yeah, we can have a conversation, see if us working together makes sense.
Awesome. And once again, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a fantastic conversation, and I know that the listeners are going to get a lot out of it.
Definitely, I really enjoyed this.